month left before a convention, I decided to make a Pomni cosplay with contrasting textures, patterns, and an over-the-top silhouette. So of course, this simple design became so much more complicated. While Pomni is more of a human shape than the other characters in the Amazing Digital Circus, I decided to change her silhouette to something I think would be more flattering on me. So that means big shorts, a big hat, and no gloves because I hate them, but most of all, I wanted to play around with patchwork. I also wanted to take inspiration from some of these little clown toys that I found on Google Images, especially this one that was even red and blue. And what better fabric than one I only ever see used for children's blankets? Dot Minky and Smooth Minky. And honestly, half of the battle with this cosplay so far has been cutting out the fabric because I decided to cut the red and the blue at the same time by just putting them over top of each other. But then I had to figure out which way up my pattern pieces had to face so that I could get the red cut out to where it would be on the correct side and the blue on the right side. It was very confusing, and it very much so challenged my ability to tell my left from my right. But I got everything cut out, and I'm gonna start with the bodysuit. And just to have a little bit more structure in the bodysuit, I also cut out a full pattern of 10-ounce duck cloth and flatlined all of that to the Minky pieces via the serger. So now I've got all of these pieces ready to go. I'm gonna start sewing them together. And because I structured this like a bodysuit, I actually did a duct tape pattern for it. Other thing was, because I made the pattern, I also did a mock-up, but I got very lucky. That duck cloth layer that I used as the flat lining was actually my first mock-up. So now I have this, but the thing is, I need to press all of this stuff, but I'm gonna have to press this very carefully because I'm pretty sure if I go real ham on the dot Minky, I'm just gonna like erase all of the dots. So I'm going to very carefully press all of the seam allowances and hopefully not destroy any of the dots. My dots still exist, so that's good. I also went ahead and got the shoulders together because the next thing I want to do is the collar. And I'm so excited about this. For all of the yellow parts, I got yellow gingham and yellow polka dots. We are doing contrasting patterns. First of all, I gotta get the collar together, and this is a flat Peter Pan collar, so it doesn't have like a stand to it, which makes it really easy. And I've got 2 pieces cut out for each of those, and both of my pieces have some lightweight fusible interfacing on them. I'm just gonna get these right sides together, and I'm gonna sew around the outside edges of it, leaving this edge in the middle open. Once I have that stitch in, I'm gonna clip all of my corners, turn those inside out, and press them flat. Collar's ready, so I'm gonna get it on. I love this method of getting collars on because it's so easy. The only thing I always mess up with this is sometimes I don't get the collar perfectly centered, but I've got a nice red and blue line to tell me where the center is. But I'm gonna get both of these pinned in where they're supposed to go, and then I'm gonna baste them in. And a basting stitch is just a temporary stitch, so you wanna use like a longer stitch length so that if you have messed it up, then it's easier for you to take it out. Okay, that's basted. So this is the part that makes it really easy. I have a piece of just double fold bias tape, okay? I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna unfold it, and I'm gonna get it pinned on going all the way across the collar. So now that this is pinned, I'm gonna do a regular length stitch across it to secure the bias tape on. You'll see in a second, but this is essentially working as a facing and a way to get the collar on there without having to do a collar band. Okay, now we get to see if I did the collar straight. Oh, God. Why does this always happen? All right. Well, I'm gonna unpick all that and do it again so that my collar will not be slightly off center. I don't know why this always happens to me. Okay. That looks a lot better. So to finish this, I'm gonna get everything out of the way and I'm gonna clip a bunch of notches into the collar because that's gonna help it curve around better. So now I'm gonna get my bias tape and I'm gonna fold it down and pin it so that it's nice and flat like that. So now all I gotta do is do one more stitch to secure the bias tape. You will see this stitch on the right side of the fabric. The collar does cover it up mostly, but I'm gonna match the threads on them. But once I do that, I will have my cute little contrasting pattern Peter Pan collar, and I can move on to the little hip rolls. So I went ahead and did some lazy patchwork for all of my yellow roll things. I wanted all of them to have the gingham and the polka dots, so I took strips of both patterns and sewed all of those together, and then I cut a bunch of bias strips out of that alternating pattern textile. I want them to be bias strips because these have to curve over some stuffing and curve over all these different parts of my body. And I'm gonna have to make a bunch of these, but I just made my first one for the hip rolls. I'll show you how I made this. So I've got my yellow bias strip, and underneath it, I have some cotton batting that I have cut to the same size of it. I'm actually going to fold the cotton batting into thirds, fold the strip over that, and pin it in place. I'm gonna get the whole thing pinned shut, and then I'm gonna run a stitch across the flat part of the fabric, and then I'm gonna go one step further and serge that edge too. And that will give me this nice big puffy hip roll thing. I do need to figure out how to finish the ends though, because they're just open right now. So one of the things I looked at when I was looking up how I could do these was the way that Cosmic Coterie does their hip rolls for their Sailor Moon fukus. They use thin upholstery foam, and what they do to do the taper is they just serge through it. I don't know, I'm a little scared to do that, but I guess I'll try and see if that works. That worked pretty well. I was a little worried about the serger, but that worked. So to get this installed, all I'm gonna do is get it pinned to the hip of the bodysuit, and to make it a little less annoying to deal with all of this fluffy shit, I'm gonna use my adjustable zipper foot because it's like flat on one side, so it's gonna help me be able to keep the bulk all to one side and not really get in the way while I'm sewing it. But once I get those on, we can move on to the zipper, which I'm way too excited about because I found a new way to do zippers and I'm just really excited to show it to you. So I want a lapped separating zipper, but I just recently learned how to do lapped zippers from a Tasha Could Make That video, so shout out to her. So to start this, I'm gonna get the back center seam and I'm gonna do a basting stitch all the way down it. Then I'm gonna get the center back seam pressed open. So now I wanna take my zipper, and this zipper is too long for this seam, but that's gonna be fine. I'm gonna line up the bottom of it with the bottom of this, and I'm gonna get one side of the seam allowance and pin it to that side. With that pin, I'm gonna get a needle and thread, and I'm gonna baste the zipper just to that one side of the seam allowance. This is the magic part. So you're gonna pick the zipper up and you're gonna let the seam allowance that you just basted onto the zipper fold into this little blob. You're gonna take your pins and you're gonna pin down the blob. So now I'm gonna do a regular length stitch to secure the blob to the zipper. This will make sense, I swear. But you want to get the blob sewn onto the zipper, and you don't want to touch the other side of the seam. You also want to make sure that none of your actual garment fabric got into the blob. You want the blob to just be that piece of seam allowance. Now we've got a blob sewn onto the zipper, and at this point we can take out those hand basting stitches. So now the goal to finish this is to do a top stitch on the blue side to secure the other side of the zipper, and that also creates the lap. So what I'm gonna do is feel for the zipper and the blue seam allowance, and I'm gonna get them pinned in on the top so that I can see where I'm supposed to sew. So now I just gotta do a top stitch across the blue, trying to catch the zipper tape and the blue seam allowance at the same time. So, turns out, I don't think you're supposed to do this kind of technique on a garment that is already completely closed, because let me tell you, trying to get a fully closed bodysuit through a sewing machine when it's made out of minky and duck cloth was a little difficult. I had to stop halfway down because I couldn't get the bodysuit to go through the machine anymore and come up from the bottom, and guess what happened when I did that? I got a giant pucker in the middle of my back. But I think the only way for me to fix this pucker is to go ahead and let the basting stitches out. So I'm gonna do that. So now I'm gonna take out those first machine basting stitches that I did. And some of this zipper will look amazing. And another part of it will look like shit. Watch this. Woo! Wow. Okay, let me fix this. That's so fucked up. I don't know why I thought I'd be able to do it this way with a closed bodysuit. Okay, I'm just gonna redo the bottom of this top stitch just with it like that. So this way I can actually see what I'm doing, and I'm going to do it probably from this zipper side so that I can actually see it. And now that it's open, the entire bodysuit is not in the way. If you're going to do this, do it while the garment is still open. Do it like first. Have it be like the first thing you do to your back panels. Okay, where'd the pucker go? She never existed. Are the bottom pieces of the bodysuit perfectly aligned now? No, they're not, but that's going into my butt. And if you can see that, then you're looking at my butt, and you shouldn't be looking at my butt. Ooh. First try. First try. I've been kind of obsessed with the way lapped zippers are done, and even though I messed this one up, this is a nice zipper. Although, you know, that's not ideal, but again, don't look at my butt. This top part up here is still a hot mess. So normally when you want to shorten a zipper, you're going to shorten it from the bottom, but with a separating zipper, you have that important little piece that actually lets it separate itself at the bottom. So you don't want to fuck with that. Your choice to shorten the zipper is at the top. What you can do is just cut these little bits off and then do a little zigzag stitch over the top of them, and that will stop the zipper from going any further. But if for some reason you go ahead and cut the zipper tape off and you haven't done the little zigzag stitch yet, and you go to pull the zipper all the way up, you're fucked. So I like to wait to do anything with that. I also just prefer to shovel away the end of the zipper somewhere no one will ever see it. But I'm literally just gonna fold this and get it situated to where it looks half decent, and I'm just gonna hand sew it to close it. But I'm gonna do that later, so those are gonna stay a clipped up mess for now. Next, we're gonna do the sleeves. So here's all my sleeve pieces. It's a bunch of pieces per sleeve, so I'm gonna go ahead and get all of this stuff sewn together. This is basically just a big puff sleeve pattern that's been segmented to do all of the colors. And once I get them sewn together, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna hand gather the bottom and the top. And with those gathered, I'm also gonna sew up the side. So now I have my sleeve, and I went ahead and made a little band for the bottom of it. These are a little bit different than the hip roll. It's basically the same thing, but I'll talk more about these specifically when we get to the hat. But for now, I'm gonna take my little ring and I'm gonna put the sleeve around it, right sides together, get that guy pinned in, and now I'm gonna sew these together going around the little circle, which is always a little challenging, but we'll make it work. So now, if I flip this right sides out, we've got a little sleeve. And movie magic, I've already got the other one. And I'm gonna make these a little fun, and I'm gonna do them a little bit like Snow White sleeves, like where it's like, yep. If you want the full Snow White sleeve effect, you have to pleat the bottom part of the sleeve and the top. I don't want the full Snow White fantasy, but I do want to pleat them on the top. I'm gonna get this sleeve pinned into my armhole. I'm gonna pin the center of this blue section to the center of the shoulder seam, but then these red parts, I'm gonna bring the two blue pieces together and pleat the red part behind them. So now I'm just gonna get the cartridge off of my machine, get that stitch in, and I will have a sleeve. And then I'm gonna do the other sleeve, and we can try this on. 2 sleeves, moment of truth. I don't know if I can do the whole zipper by myself, but I'm gonna try. Oh, look at me, I'm a little clown. Oh. So, as you might have noticed, these are a little deflated. So what I have, these are my sleeve supports that I made for Strawberry Miku. They are literally just little pieces of spandex that have stuffing in them. They are like a historical fashion thing, and ooh, everybody freak out that I made a historical fashion thing out of spandex. They make it a little harder to get your arms in, but they are worth it. Oh yeah. The last thing this needs is the closure of the bodysuit, and I'm actually going to do that with 2 itty bitty parachute clips because snaps come undone. Dress hooks are hard to attach in your crotch, and I've not tried this before, so I'm gonna do this. But once these are in and once I fix all the fussy stuff in the back, the only other thing this thing needs is a hook and eye at the very top of the zipper, and this will be done. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the shorts. So just like the sleeves, the shorts are a whole bunch of pieces. But I want a pocket in this cosplay, and for some reason I decided I don't want to do an insert pocket. So we're doing kind of a weird patch pocket slit. I guess it's more like a slit pocket like these. And so before I sew all of these pieces together, I'm gonna flatline these two together, which should give me a pocket literally almost the entire size of the pattern piece. Now I've got this big old pocket. Now, I can get all these sewn together. And you might notice this pattern is a little interesting. Basically, when you want to make any large shorts pattern, all you have to do is extend the size of the shorts width-wise, and it'll make them nice and poofy. But I made those middle panels in that kind of weird tapered shape, because what that's gonna do is make it really big and rotund in the middle, while also cutting down on the bulk that has to get gathered into the leg band and the waistband. But once I get all of those sewn together, just like the sleeves, I'm gonna hand gather the top and the bottom. Okay, I've got 2 shorts panels, so I'm ready to put these together. I'm gonna put these right sides together, and we're gonna sew in the crotch seam and stop before we get to the leg. We're also going to sew in the butt seam and stop before we get to the leg. Now we're gonna open this up. We're gonna put the butt and the crotch centers together and pin them. And you're gonna sew up through the leg seams. You end up with this big, giant pair of shorts. I'm gonna go ahead and get the yellow bands on the bottom of the shorts, and these work almost exactly the same way that I just did them with the sleeves. I'm gonna put them right sides together with the bottom of the shorts and sew them together in the round. Alrighty, leg bands are on. This looks so silly. Okay, waistband. I decided I wanted it to be half blue and half red. Gonna get it sewn onto the top of the shorts. Now I got these. And to finish these up, what I'm gonna do is fold the waistband down, and I actually cut the waistband on the selvage edge, so this doesn't need to be finished. And from the top side, I'm gonna do a stitch in the ditch, which means I'm gonna do a stitch right here where these 2 seams meet. Then I'm just gonna feed in some elastic, and there's one more thing to do to these shorts that makes them actually poofy. Without this next thing, these will never look like anything but droopy clown shorts. These are my short supports for Pink Diamond that I made years and years ago. They're literally just long pillow-shaped things stuffed with polyfill. All I'm gonna do is put them in the shorts. I have put more stuffing in this one than I have this one, but I do have more stuffing for this one. Look at this. Look at this. Think I will have to mess with the stuffing a little more to get them looking the same, but yeah, that's the secret to big shorts, is put pillows in your shorts. Okay, moving on to the shoes. So I'm making boot covers for these, and I just made the pattern by doing a tape pattern on a pair of boots that I have. I ended up being able to make it 2 pieces. I don't really like the look of a center seam in a boot cover, but that's certainly a way you can do it. I also am very tired of boot covers that like flip up over my shoes, so I decided to do a full bottom for these. But to make sure it's not slippery, I also put on these like sticky grippy pads so that I'm not slipping all over the floor. And then I just added the little yellow cuffs, and that's the shoes. And we can finally move on to the crown jewel of the cosplay, the Jester Hat. So to get my pattern for the hat, I actually did a tape pattern over a shape that I sculpted in monster clay. This is my first time working with monster clay, and I had a lot of fun. Maybe I'll talk about it more in another video, but I did it really small so that I could then scale it up, but I didn't really scale it to my head properly, so there's gonna be a little bit of fudging with this. But these are my basic pieces for the pattern. Important thing to know, every single one of these pieces is the minky flat lined again to the duck cloth, but this time I have some interfacing fused to the duck cloth because we are going for a very structured, very big Jester hat. What I have on the table right now is half of the hat, and I'm gonna go ahead and get these all sewn together. All of the patterns that I made for this cosplay will be available for free download to the public on my Patreon. This one, thankfully, I actually did registration marks for, unlike what I did for the Snow Miku pigtail pattern, which only I could ever figure out. This one I think anybody could really figure out. However, it will be bigger than anyone's actual head, and you will see in a second that I'm going to have to fudge it to where it will fit on my head. Also, yes, the interfacing makes these a little bit hard to sew together, but it will be worth it because I want the hat to be able to stand up on its own. Got half of my hat, but if I forcibly pull it inside out, then I get this. Ooh. Okay, so you can see that it's like way too big for my head because of how I did the pattern. I did go ahead and make the other side. Like, this is supposed to be half of my head and it's way too big. I also pleated these back 2 panels. Could I have just redone the pattern to make those panels smaller? Yeah, but I didn't want to do that. But my next step is going to be sewing these 2 pieces together. Yeah, this is a little hard to fit on the machine, but we're going for it. I don't actually know where this seam is supposed to end because I changed the pattern around a little bit. Oh my god. Yeah, I gotta go through this last panel, but it's pleated right there, so... if I was going to break a needle, it would be now. Good luck, little crafter. I've seen a video of this machine going through 6 layers of denim, so don't fail me now. Alright. That was what? 3, 4, 5, 6 layers? 3 fabrics each layer? Will it sit on my head now? Oh! Oh! Okay, I put on the wig because I needed to fuss with it and I needed to see what it looked like with the wig. If you want to see how I did this wig, I did it live for my patrons. The live streaming perk is available for all tiers, so you can get it for just $1. Anyway, I really should have made a lot of changes to this pattern when I did the mock-up, because I've just been sitting here putting this on my head, pinning in a different way, putting it back on my head, messing up my hair to high heaven, until I got something that I liked. I think I have something that I like. I do need to take in that center seam a little bit, and the front is too long, so I'm gonna cut some of that off. Not all tape patterns are made the same. Wish me luck. I'm gonna do another seam through here and we'll see if that helps it. That's a lot closer to what I want. It's still too big for my head, but I will fix that when we get the band on. I'm starting out with a piece of the yellow that's already been sewn and pressed. I also have a piece of cotton batting that is also sewn into a circle. I'm gonna fold the cotton batting over onto itself. Take the yellow part, put it inside the cotton batting, and then pull the yellow over the cotton batting and pin it in place all the way around. Okay, that's pinned, so I'm gonna sew it shut, and then I'm gonna serge the edges all the way around. So now my little hat band is ready. The last thing I should have to do is sew this onto here, which I think is going to involve more fudging it. I also went ahead and put my mock-up inside so that it can kind of be aligning, because the inside of this looks like a mess and I'd prefer not to see it again. The whole back part is gonna need to be hand sewn because that's like too much stuff back there, but I'm gonna see if I can get the front part through the machine. But once I get these together, all I have left is to get the pom-poms on, and I'll be done with this cosplay. So maybe it didn't technically take me 4 days. There was a whole day I spent patterning and another day cutting out all the pieces, but for a project that took less than a week, I am pretty happy. And obviously I made a lot of personal stylistic choices with this cosplay, and I can already hear a couple comments being like, that Pomni isn't accurate. But I chose to make the silhouette something I would like to wear. I chose to play with textures and patterns, and I chose to wear giant spider lashes. And I can do all that because it's my cosplay. And if you like it too, that's great. But if you don't like it, that's also great. My cosplay, my rule. Your cosplay, your rule. And if you want to know how I did those giant spider lashes, or you want to support the channel directly, you should check out my Patreon, because I did those spider lashes on stream for my patrons. But if you're just watching, liking, commenting, subscribing, sending the video to a friend or your mom, or subscribing, please subscribe, then you're supporting the channel too. So thank you. And a big thank you to my newest big support tier patrons, Romy Litkin, Peachy Cosplay, Queen of Cringe 18, and Al King. Thanks so much for watching. Bye! Hey, bye, kitty.